Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, listeners. It's Kathy Mazak, and I think this is going to be the last episode that is about the behind the scenes or the making of, the writing of, the publishing of my book, Making Time to Write. Now, those of you who have tolerated these episodes, I think maybe there's been 4, maybe this is the 4th or 5th one. I really appreciate it. I hope that it's helpful to hear what my writing process is like and my book publishing process is like, whether you are in a book field or not. And to be honest, I just want to be really vulnerable and real with all of you about how, the creation of the book came about. And so here we go. This is the making of Making Time to Write. I hope that you enjoy it. When I first decided to write a book, I wanted to do it because I wanted to make what's inside of our programs more accessible to a wider audience. So if you're a longtime listener of this podcast, you know that we offer several professional development programs for women and non-binary professors. And these programs are not cheap. That's because there's a lot of live interaction and coaching and support. And so, they're not programs that are necessarily accessible to everyone. But a book that costs, I think my book's going to cost $17. A paperback book that costs $17 and that you could read in a weekend, I think is like a much more accessible option for helping people make time to write and center their writing and publishing in their careers. So that was the original kind of motivation to write the book. And you can go back and listen to the other kind of book-related episodes of the podcast where I talk about how I decided to publish with an independent press rather than a academic press or a general public press or whatever, like how I chose the press. And then I talk a lot about my writing process. But in this episode, I really wanted you to understand kind of like the arc of the book writing journey and how the actual content of the book changed and developed as I was putting, metaphorical pen to paper and writing it out. So with the idea of making some of the goodness that's inside of our programs accessible at a much lower price point and in a format that academics love, right? Reading a book. My original thought for writing the book was going to be that it was going to be a how-to manual. Like it was going to be kind of the process that we teach inside of Navigate, which we have a program called Navigate, Your Writing Roadmap, that are 10 systems that make up like a 10-step process to publishing more. And we say you can double your publication output in the next year if you do our Navigate program. No guarantees, but if you do the whole program, then we feel confident saying that you will double your publication output. So originally my thought was, I'm going to write this book and it's going to be kind of like the book version of Navigate. But when I sat down to actually do the writing, I was very wrong about that. So, I sat down to write and I really wanted to write in the book proposal the justification for a book that is really geared to women and non-binary professors rather than a book about writing that's geared to all professors. So I felt I really had to contextualize, right? Like, what is wrong with the patriarchy in particular that affects our writing? And how is making time to write kind of an act of resistance against the patriarchy? And that argument became like a big part of the book proposal and also the first chapter of the book. So I had the book proposal and I had the proposal accepted when I decided to do Jane Jones's Elevate book writing program. And it was in that program that I worked with Jane and her team on getting feedback, right? Like part of that program is developmental editing, like on really getting feedback on the book. And one of the things I was working on at the beginning of the program was structure. And again, we've got a podcast episode all about that and how I realized the structure of the book and whatever. But what I want to say today is I started out thinking it was going to be this how-to book. Then I wrote the proposal. And in the proposal, I made this big argument for how the patriarchy holds certain kinds of people in academia back from making time to write. How like the cards are stacked against us, right? If we're women or non-binary professors, as we try to navigate this very rigid structure and patriarchal system, which is academia. So in making that argument, I was trying to then figure out what's the structure of the book. And so like, here's this argument in the front and then a bunch of how-to things. And it kind of didn't line up. And Jane actually said to me, she's like, you're not writing a how-to book. You're writing a manifesto. And I was like, yes, you're right. That's exactly right. And once I was kind of liberated from the how-to, like the idea that the book was like a step-by-step how-to guide, and really said, no, this book is like almost the philosophy behind the teaching and how you're going to change your mindset and how you're going to really make these kind of what I think are the base foundational shifts that you need to do in order to go implement. When I made that realization, I was like, okay, now I know what this book looks like. And so saying that the book is a manifesto and not a how-to book, I don't want you to think that it's ranty, because it's not. It's not ranty. It really is a book that is the why behind how we do all of our programs, like the why behind the teachings that you're going to find inside of Navigate especially. So I want to kind of make really clear the difference between the book and Navigate so that you can see what I'm talking about, because there are exercises in the book, right? The book isn't just, it's not me like ranting or anything like that. I didn't want to write a ranty book at all. It's really a book that is walking you through a process of changing the way you think about your writing. And that's what's going to lead to the making time to write. So the book starts out with one of my favorite quotes. It's not you, it's the patriarchy, right? That's part one of the book. And there's 2 chapters there that are really focused on like the patriarchal context, right? So the first chapter is about how academia keeps us from writing. So it really talks a little bit about history, a little bit about, not too deep because it's not like a super researched book. It makes the argument in that first chapter that indeed we are operating within patriarchy and there's good reasons for that. But the system is, like I said before, right, stacked against us. So that's chapter 1, just kind of giving people an orientation and also laying out something that I think is really important about the book, which is that I am very aware of the fact that I am writing a book about making time to write and giving readers like advice on how to take control of their academic careers through writing on a personal level. The book is about you as an individual professor taking control of your academic career through writing. It is not about bringing down the structures, right? So yes, I am aware in the book that I am providing personalized solutions to structural problems, which is problematic, right? Like I get like that there's definitely a tension there. And of course, I try to explain the best I can my reasoning here. One being that we can't wait until like patriarchy falls in order to start feeling good in our jobs. And we also, many of us in academia cannot make our jobs about bringing down the patriarchy or about bringing down these, institutionalized racism, sexism, ableism, and all of it that could easily take over our whole careers to our mental health detriment and our physical health detriment. And it's kind of too much. So what I'm trying to do in the book is provide people with a way to navigate these social structures and institutional structures that is, yes, like your own personal navigation through of that. And I think that the way that big change happens is often from both bottom up and top down. And so the argument in the book is that by changing yourself, you are moving towards toppling the structures because you're participating in bottom up change. And that, yes, some people who read the book will want to do top down change, but not everybody. And I don't want any person to feel like it is their responsibility to reform all the very ingrained institutional structures that are holding people back. I feel like a lot of times women come into my programs, especially women come into my programs and say, I'm going to get an admin job so that I can start to break down some of these structures. And I said, like, yes, you can do that if you want. And also, just by you reacting to those structures and dealing with those structures differently, you're starting to erode them. So I don't feel like people should say, I'm going to sacrifice, right, what I really want to do so that I can get an admin job so I can start to make things better for other people. That's fabulous. It's not for everybody, right? It's not what I think is the only way that academic cultural change is going to happen. And in fact, because I am at my heart an anthropologist, and a social scientist, I think that the way real lasting change happens is by cultural change that never happens from the top down. Do we need top down change? Yes. Can we start to feel better every day by changing the way that we kind of react to the culture or deal with the culture of academia individually? I also think yes. So that was a lot to say about the first chapter. But then the rest of the book goes into like how we can change our thinking to be able to do what the subtitle of the book says, which is resist the patriarchy and take control of your academic career through writing. So in the second chapter, I talk about what I call the twin scarcities, which are money scarcity and time scarcity, and how those are particularly kind of developed early in your academic career, particularly as a grad student. There's never enough money. There's never enough time. And that we take with it through our career. So I really talk about like what those things are. And so you can start to recognize if you're operating from scarcity and where those scarcity ideas originated so that you can try to begin to like kind of say, oh, well, that makes sense about why I was operating that way. And also there's other choices that are available for me. I can operate as if there is abundance and not scarcity. So again, it's about mindset. It's about like really changing the way we think about those ingrained ideas that we carry around with us about scarcity of time, scarcity of money that lead us to make decisions based on fear, right? And again, like not to judge yourself for making decisions based on fear. Like I make decisions based on fear every day, but let's acknowledge like sometimes we make decisions based on fear and they backfire. So how can we improve our decision-making by improving our mindset around scarcity and abundance, including and especially scarcity and abundance of publications? So those are like the first part of the book are those two chapters that are really kind of setting the foundation for the rest of the book. There's like a workbook that goes with the book that you can download, and there are exercises in that book. So, for example, for the Twin Scarcities chapter, there's like an exercise, a kind of almost like a journaling exercise that walks you through like coming up with your scarcity stories and then flipping them. So there are hands-on things to do in the book, absolutely, or related to the book. So the next part of the book talks about building a sustainable relationship-based writing practice. So in there, if you are a longtime podcast listener, you will hear many familiar ideas. Okay, so the idea of soaring versus slogging, right? Like this creating, manufacturing for yourself the feeling of soaring in your writing, which means it's the opposite of slogging, right? Slogging is when you feel, this is easy to relate to, right? When you're like, feel like you're like dragging your feet through mud. So you write 7 words and delete 5 and write 5 words and delete 3, like that's slogging. And soaring is when you have flow, right? Another way to say flow state, or like when you feel like the writing's flowing out of you and you have energy and drive. And so I talk about the different ways to avoid slogging and get yourself writing in your soaring state. There's more than one way to do it. I talk about that. And so again, in a way, it's a how to find your soaring state. But more importantly, it's the why. Like, why should you do that? That's what I talk about in the book. Like, what is it that continuing to like insist on writing every day or writing a certain number of words a day, like how is that harming you in your writing practice? So then we talk about a concept of putting writing at the center and writing as an organizer for your career. And I talk about what I call the myth of accountability and what you need instead, which, spoiler alert, is community. So many people come into the programs asking for accountability. And I maybe get a tiny bit ranty about that in the book, about like people looking outside of themselves, right? External accountability for doing things. Like if you build soaring, if you put writing at the center, if you have a community around you of writers that support you and other academics that support you, then you won't be asking so much for accountability. We've started to talk about compassionate accountability inside of our programs because so many people bring the word accountability with them when they come into our programs. So we want to acknowledge that that's important to all of you. But I think that there's other ways to go about getting what many people think of as like an external accountability, like somebody to hold me, sit my butt in the chair and hold me there while I write. You know, it's a little aggressive for my taste. So that's the chapters in part 2, which is building a sustainable relationship writing system. So again, like I wanted to say that those are like kind of core ideas that are in our Navigate program. But in Navigate, because Navigate is what we call like a hybrid program, which means there's recorded content and there's live aspects of the program or program components like group coaching around mindset and the co-writing times together and a guided writing sprints and all of that. Like Navigate is much more hands-on, how to let's get that writing happening and those publications out. So the book is such a nice complement and deeper dive into a lot of the kind of base foundational things or mindset shifts that you have to make in order to go about implementing the things we do in Navigate. So in Navigate, you start out with writing an academic mission statement. You align your activities to that mission statement through a process, a very structured and easy to do. It's not easy kind of emotionally, but it's it's structured and like a set of rubrics that you're kind of analyzing how things fit in with your academic mission. And then you implement all of these like time saving, you know, really like productivity changes so that you can free time in your schedule for writing. So it's like practical in Navigate. And then we get into writing systems. So in Navigate, I mean, we absolutely do still talk about soaring versus slogging, and we talk about goal setting, and we talk about mindset, all inside of the Navigate program. But the book lets us do like a deeper kind of dive into the why behind that. And in a different format as well, right? Because in Navigate, you're either listening to the audio version or watching a video that is voiceover slides that talks about all of these ideas and asks you to take action. There's a big workbook that comes with Navigate where you're doing all of these things. So Navigate is very like doing focused. The book has much more reflective, journal-y kind of activities in it, which are just such a great like way to complement the Navigate program. The two things really fit together. And I have a special announcement at the end of this podcast episode about how you can participate in a very aligned version of Navigate that is supported by the book. So I'm going to talk about that at the end. But first, let me finish kind of this comparison between the content of the book and our Navigate program. So the third section of Making Time to Write the book is called Resisting Shoulds, and shoulds is in air quotes. So through 5 years of running an academic writing and coaching, career coaching business, I have heard, and my coaching team has heard, all the shoulds. And people at every level of the career are talking about what they think they should be doing. And so it was really important to me to dig into this idea and talk about where these shoulds come from and why it is patriarchy smashing to get rid of the shoulds and actually do something else. Like not just say like, stop shoulding yourself, which is the name of a chapter, but say like, and here's what to do instead, right? Which is to become an expert on your own practice. And I call it like a process of leaning in. So instead of saying like, I'm bad at setting this kind of goal, or rewards don't drive me, for example. Like I can set up rewards for writing, but it doesn't really motivate me. So the question is, what motivates you? And lean into that. If you're deadline driven, instead of saying like, I shouldn't be so deadline driven, let's think about what are healthy ways that you could kind of lean into that being deadline driven that are going to be helpful. So the idea is like embrace those things, embrace your own practice, know it really well, and then embrace it and shape it and be in control of that. The idea is to be more you. Like stop resisting being who you are and like lean into being who you are. And that's really going to have a great effect on how you feel towards the act of being a professor every day, right? If every day in your head, you're like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that, but here I am, I suck, right? Like I suck because I do it this way. No, we're going to instead be very observant as to how you do it and then use that, like lean in. So that is something that we do teach inside of Navigate. There's a system inside of Navigate that is called the Project Prediction Plan. And in there, we take you through this step-by-step of actually figuring out how long it takes you to do things, because the idea is that predictability is better than speed. So we're always like trying to like go for speed all the time. Like we should be faster. And we're like all in our heads about why aren't we faster? But actually what we want to be, instead of being faster, let's be more predictable. Let's be able to say like, okay, this is how long it's going to take me. And that's how long it takes you. Because that has us like, instead of like wearing yourself into the ground, trying to be fast and not succeeding, instead being predictable, and you can predict what you're going to do and you predict the goal and you meet the goal. Wow, that feels great, right? So that's what we do inside of Navigate. I talk about those ideas inside of the book. And again, really I'm able to give more explanation and time to why this idea of like, stop getting all up in your head about what you think you should be doing and realize what you can do, what you are doing, and then do more of that, refine that, take that as the jumping off point, instead of taking some other person's ridiculous idea that you probably don't know how they actually get things done, but you're like assuming from the outside. So get rid of all of that and really, I don't know, trust yourself, believe in yourself, and figure out how you work, and then get better at you. So then in the book, in Making Time to Write, I can go really in depth about what to do when your writing gets derailed. Because this is a problem. Like people do Navigate, for example. They do our Navigate program And then they're like, I was great. And then I got sick. I was great. And then my kid got sick or, whatever, all the kinds of things that could derail a writing practice. And what I used to say, and I still do, is like, well, you have all the tools you need if you've done Navigate. So you can just go back, refresh, stop, pick up, and you can move on, right? In the book, I get to really dig into some more kind of mindset stuff around that and connect it to these institutions that insist that we are equally productive all the time, right? That in every moment, our quote unquote productivity stays the same as if we are robots, not humans. So when writing gets derailed is all that chapter of the book is really all about that and what to do and how to think about derailments. I give you an example of different types of derailments so that you can decide like, oh, what's derailing me? Are these things that are predictable actually, even though they don't feel predictable, but they are, or are they completely unpredictable, right? And then go from there in terms of how you react and recover from derailments. Also, something we don't get to go into in Navigate that I went into in depth in the book is the role of rest in writing. And we do talk about that in Amplify and Elevate, our pre and post tenure coaching programs with a little more depth. But I wanted to really talk about like, what is that relationship between rest and writing and why sometimes we feel like I don't have any motivation. But what you actually are feeling is, I need to rest. So we blame ourselves, so much self-blame, right? Like, I'm not motivated. Where's my intrinsic motivation? Blah, blah, blah. Actually, you're exhausted. So of course you're not motivated. You are not pouring back into yourself and recovering from big bouts of production and creation. So I have a whole chapter about this in the book, not something we really get into in depth inside of Navigate. And I thought it was really important, to talk about in the book. So then there's, of course, in the book, a conclusion. I talk about writing as transformation. I kind of try to wrap things up and bring things home. I circle back to that idea of changing your individual kind of approach or your mindset towards your career and towards writing and towards being an academic, and how to do that inside of oppressive structures or why to do that inside of oppressive structures. And so it kind of ties everything up and we circle back through each chapter and kind of, it's a conclusion. So in Navigate, we map your pipeline, we make a plan for the year, we make a 5-year plan, there's a lot more of that kind of how to create your writing plan and act on it. And what I want to say is that Navigate, the program, and Making Time to Write the book fit together really, really beautifully. So what we've decided to do for our May enrollment of our Navigate program is to do a book integrated version of Navigate. And if you are already in Navigate or if you're in the Navigate Alumni Program, don't worry, you're going to get all the book related goodies as well. But if you've never done Navigate and it's like you've been waiting, right? This is the time to do it because I'm super excited about how we're going to integrate the book with the Navigate program. So Navigate is a year-long program. It starts out with these 10 systems. You basically watch the recorded content around those 10 systems in the first 10 weeks of the program. And then the reason it's a year-long program is because as you're implementing and really mastering these systems, there's 5 program milestones that we coach you around. So you submit your progress towards the milestone and our coaches reply to you with feedback, individualized help. And that helps you to keep going and maintain and really get these systems and practices to be part of your life, your academic life, right? For a year. And that's what's going to lead to more publications, so many more publications than what maybe you're able to produce now. And we thought it would be amazing to kind of integrate into the Navigate year-long program, reading the book together. So the people who enroll in Navigate in May will get access to a book club that we are going to run live. There's going to be, I think, 3 book club kind of coaching calls that are going to be integrated into your Navigate syllabus. And also integrated into the syllabus are going to be like, okay, you're going to watch these videos and you're going to read this chapter. And don't worry, the pace is really spacious. The pace is abundant. The book is short. So I don't want you to be thinking like, oh no, I'm going to do all these videos and I have to read the book. The book's like 120 pages long. It's not that. Each chapter you could read in 45 minutes, and so it really is a book that you could read in a weekend. But what we're going to do is we're going to integrate each chapter with what we think it supports inside of the Navigate program. So everybody who enrolls in Navigate gets a syllabus. The syllabus is going to have not only the Navigate syllabus as it exists right now, but also integrated into it the readings of the book and also these book club calls. So we're going to have our coaches and myself hosting this book club that is going to happen again at a really leisurely, wonderful pace. We're going to give everybody time to read the book, but there will be at least 3 live calls that are book club calls. So basically 1 call at the end of each of the parts of the book, right? Like it's going to all dovetail beautifully and be curricularly planned for you inside of Navigate. And the first 30 people who enroll in Navigate for our May start are going to get a physical copy of Making Time to Write. Yes, it is not available as a physical book until late August, early September. But if you enroll in Navigate, you are going to get a physical copy of the book mailed to you. So I'm super excited to announce that. Very, very excited. So what do you have to do to participate in all this wonderfulness? Well, we are going to be doing an information session about our upcoming Navigate plus book integration version. So our May, we're calling it like the book club cohort. So we try to name our cohorts. So our May cohort of Navigate will be a book club cohort, and we are going to be explaining exactly how the program works, answering all your questions, talking about really giving you all the information necessary to decide whether Navigate is for you. We're going to be doing that on April 8th, 2022. So we will link in the show notes to the sign up where you can sign up to go and be live with us on that information session. Of course, you can also watch the recording after it's over so that you can, from the beginning of April, you'll have all the information you need in order to decide whether you want to sign up for our May cohort. The official May cohort is open for enrollment May 3 to May 13th. So you will have all the information in hand on April 8th, and you will just need to decide by May 13th. That'll be your last chance to enroll in the book club version of Navigate. Again, if you're in Navigate right now, or in the Navigate Alumni Program right now, you're going to get all the book club goodies. So don't worry. All the book club meetings and the integrated book club syllabus and all of that stuff you will get. So don't worry about that. And then we have a special bonus for new members of Navigate. The first 30 new members of Navigate are going to get the physical copy of the book mailed to them when they enroll for our May cohort. So as you can tell from my voice, I'm super excited about this. Thank you so much for listening today. Check out the show notes for links that you need. Get onto our email list so you don't miss any of the wonderful and exciting things that are going to be happening in the next several months around the launch of the Making Time to Write book. And I just can't wait to see you inside of Navigate and to do this really juicy integrated version of Navigate plus the Making Time to Write book club. All right, have a great day. Bye. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.